Hello, and welcome to C.A.T.C Studios. Something you may not know about me, I love Nintendo. I love all things Nintendo. Something else you may not know about me, I love the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And recently, there's been a very large surge of good video game movies. Although, not all of the video game movies I'm referring to are based off of real video games. Examples include Wreck-It Ralph, Free Guy, assuming it's actually good, Sonic the Hedgehog, Detective Pikachu, Rampage, and Jumanji. Not to mention, we got a Mortal Kombat movie, an Uncharted movie, a Super Mario Bros. Movie, a Minecraft movie, and a Five Nights at Freddy's movie still coming. It seems like the movie industry is finally understanding the money it can print if it starts adapting some of our favorite video games to the big screen. Of course, the film industry is also desperate to duplicate the success of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as evidenced by franchises like the DC Cinematic Universe, or the Dark Universe started by Universal. But with all the video game movies and attempts at a cinematic universe, I think it's pretty obvious that one of the best solutions to both these problems would be a Nintendo Cinematic Universe. Today, I discuss the possibility of a Nintendo Cinematic Universe, the ideal cast list, and what characters I feel need to be represented in this brand new lineup of movies. Let's begin with the lineup of movies. There are so many Nintendo games that there are so many different movies you could make. Naturally, the very first movies would have to be Super Mario Bros. And The Legend of Zelda, for obvious reasons. After that, it's a little bit tricky. It mostly just depends on how many movies you want to make in this universe. Before the first Super Smash Bros. Movie, I think it would probably be best to have 6 movies. First movie would be Super Mario Bros. The second movie would be The Legend of Zelda. The third movie would be Donkey Kong Country. The fourth movie would be Star Fox, the fifth movie would be Metroid, and the sixth movie would be Kirby. I know I'm excluding Pokemon from the first Smash Bros. Movie, but I feel like it would be hard to make a Pokemon movie that actually feels original, because there have already been so many. It would be nearly impossible to create an original story out of the Pokemon games. Instead, I think it would be better to focus on characters who haven't had as much representation on the big screen. First, we have the Super Mario movie. This game is a little bit infamous when it comes to the cinema, because it already has a live-action adaptation. Unfortunately, this movie was a flop when it released back in 1993, because it was only a loose adaptation of the original game. If they were to make a Mario movie, they would have to tread very carefully. Task number 1 would be to make sure that the movie is true to the video games as much as possible. Task number 2 would be making sure that the movie still has twists and turns enough to be an interesting story and isn't too based on the video game that it's not fun to watch. Remember, this Mario movie would likely be the opener to the cinematic universe. It has to be amazing. I think the best way to make a Mario movie is to have twists and turns, but have the twists and turns and story elements all be part of the games, such as items and enemies. The genre I think would fit this film would be a kids film that adults can still enjoy with the same level of humor as Kung Fu Panda and Shrek. Now for the casting. I believe the choice for Mario is Jack Black. He's funny, he has the perfect build and voice for Mario. My fan cast for Luigi is Paul Rudd. His performance as Ant-Man has me convinced he can play Luigi perfectly. Princess Peach should be Amy Adams. Her performance as Giselle in Disney's Enchanted has me convinced she can play a princess expertly. I have Jeffrey Rush in the role of Bowser. He can play a villain really well. But he's also the same man who plays Nigel in Finding Nemo. The man has range. Lastly, we have Toad, who should be played by Jonah Hill, or as I like to call him,
Pro Run-In.
I also want Bowser Jr. to be in the movie, but I don't have an actor that I really think needs to play him. Next is The Legend of Zelda movie. Lots of fans seem to think that the Legend of Zelda series should start with Ocarina of Time, but I think a better approach the movie could take would be a completely original story, blank slate. That way we can properly show off the world of Hyrule. It would start with Link discovering that he has the Triforce of Courage, then he would go off to find the Triforce of Wisdom and Power, which are both being held by Zelda and Ganondorf. But naturally, Ganon is taking over Hyrule, and Zelda has to stop Ganon by sending Navi to Link. And along the way, they meet up with Tingle, because Tingle. My vision is for Legend of Zelda to be the next Lord of the Rings. It needs to have amazing set design and perfect usage of lore and Easter eggs. Legend of Zelda has some pretty simple story elements to incorporate into it. The big struggle would just be making sure that it feels like it came out of an open world game, which can be difficult because a movie can only go so many places. The casting is pretty simple. My vote for Link is Tom Holland like everybody else. You can play the action portion of it pretty well, and you can do the acting part of it pretty well. But if we're gonna have a Kid Icarus movie in this universe, I'd rather Tom Holland play Pit than Link. In a world where Tom Holland is Pit, I would rather Link be played by Thomas Brodie Sangster from The Maze Runner. For Zelda, I would choose Emma Watson. In The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, we see that Zelda's actually pretty interested in research and books and stuff.
Then, we'll need some adjustments on that divine beast so Daru can manage it as easily as possible.
What witch do we know who's pretty interested in research and books? Not to mention, she's obsessed with books when she plays Belle. For Navi, I would like to have this character voiced by the original voice actor. For Tingle, it should be Ken Jeong, for obvious reasons. For Ganondorf, I'd go back and forth a lot. Could be Brian Lee, Ben Kingsley, or James Spader. Right now I'm gonna say that I think Idris Elba could pull it off pretty well. It all depends on the action-dialogue ratio. Literally, as I was writing this video, I originally wrote down James Spader and then changed it to Idris Elba. That's how flip-floppy I am on this decision. Next on the list of movies is the Donkey Kong Country movie. This movie's a little bit infamous when it comes to adaptations as well, because it already has an animated series that aired back in 1996. Wait, 1996? It's only a year after the first animated movie came out. Character designs are special, to say the least.
I got a bad case of the uglies today, little buddy.
I personally really like this show, but I think the best avenue a movie could take would be a realism style, similar to that of The Lion King in 2019. It'd be tricky, but I think it could be done. This movie has to be the most comedic of all the movies. It needs to be an Emperor's New Groove style buddy comedy movie with Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong. My idea of a plot for this movie is the Kremling stealing something from the Kongs that can lead them to the golden bananas, and Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong setting off to go and find the golden bananas, and Funky Kong and Dixie Kong getting themselves mixed up into the fray somehow. Now for the casting. Danny McBride is Donkey Kong. He's funny, and I think he has the right voice for Donkey Kong. Diddy Kong ought to be played by Jason Earls. He was a hilarious and immature brother on the show Hannah Montana. He has a perfect voice for Diddy Kong too. King K. Rool, or King K. Rool, should be played by Andy Serkis. He needs to be funny, but he also needs to be a master of villainhood. Examples from Andy's career include Gollum, Caesar, and Claw. Not to mention he's a master of mocap. Danny DeVito needs to be Cranky Kong. Get the image in your head. Dixie Kong should be Sabrina Carpenter. She needs to be funny, but she also needs to not be too funny because everybody else is just going to be hilarious. Funky Kong needs to have a deep voice, but he also needs to be a little bit of an aviator. I think Patrick Warburton has the chops for it. This performance as Kronk is exactly how I picture Funky Kong. The next movie is the Star Fox movie. This movie should basically just be a combination of Star Wars, the Guardians of the Galaxy, just more kid-friendly, and Zootopia. The basic premise for the game is most likely to be the same for the movie. In the game, Fox McCloud gets a team together to continue his father's legacy and restart the Star Fox team. He pulls together a team consisting of Falco Lombardi, Slippy Toad, and Peppy Hare. After this, they head off to defeat the villain of the story, Andross, a giant floating gorilla head. Although there would need to be a character named Wolf O'Donnell to prepare for Smash. Fox and McCloud could be either Tom Cruise or Chris Pratt. We need pilots, which either can do well. It all depends on A, how many stunts are in this movie, and B, how much comedy you want Fox to have. Chris Evans ought to be the voice of Falco. Falco is a little bit of a sass mouth, and Chris Evans...
Mr. Drysdale. C.A.T.C?
We're also going to need a bit of an action hero to play Falco. Ben Schwartz could be Slippy Toad. He has the right voice for it. He could also do the comedy portion of it. Peppy Hare needs to be a grumpy old man that can still get serious when the movie calls for it. Picture him with bunny ears. Wait, never mind. Picture him with hair ears. The leader of Star Wolf, Wolf O'Donnell, needs to be played by Jason Statham. He has the right amount of no-nonsense attitude, and he has the perfect action ratio. Andros could be many people. Right now I'm gonna say Donald Sutherland could do him best. He has the right amount of shifty and malignant nature. What does my life come to? I'm sitting here trying to figure out who should play a giant floating gorilla head. Behold, the next movie, Metroid. A movie about a bounty hunter who discovers an alien creature she was supposed to kill but chooses not to. That sounds familiar. My suspicion is that a Metroid movie would play out just like the game. Samus is hired by the Galactic Federation to hunt down the Metroids that were stolen from them by the space pirates. The villain would be Mother Brain, with Ridley having a large part to prepare for Smash. This one would be a little less comedic than the other films. It would have to be more of a thriller. The casting is pretty straightforward. You need a female action hero to play Samus. I think Scarlett Johansson could do it. Her performance as Black Widow has showed me that she could play a troubled character who tries to hide her emotions. I know many fans want Brie Larson, but I think Scarlett Johansson could do it better. Adam Malkovich should be played by Samuel L. Jackson. He's a space commander that works for the Galactic Federation. Anthony Higgs should be played by John Boyega. He's a soldier who works in the same platoon run by Adam Malkovich. I know one guy who plays a very good space soldier. I don't feel like an actor is necessary to play Mother Brain or Ridley. I feel like they could just make sounds. It'll be fine. Next on the list of films is Kirby! This video game would be probably the most difficult to adapt into a movie. I mean, have you ever seen a film about a pink ball with a bottomless stomach? I think the best approach the movie can take would be a slightly more realistic style of film than the games, but also not too realistic, because then everything's just gonna look creepy and weird. I think that Kirby should stick to just saying Poyo and other Kirby sounds. I also think that King Dedede and Meta Knight should have more important roles in the movie than just the villains. Meta Knight should be a stoic warrior who fights the villains because he wants to be the best, and King Dedede should fight the villains because it benefits him somehow and he's greedy. Now who should the villain be? It really doesn't matter, but I'll just go with Dark Matter. This movie needs to be a Wall-E-style superhero origin story for the pink puffball and his friends. The casting is pretty simple. Kirby just needs to be played by the same person who plays him in the games. Meta Knight needs to be a pretty serious actor. My personal vote is for Joaquin Phoenix. King Dedede is tricky. If you want to get a big name actor for him, you could probably go with Christopher Walken or somebody else. But I think that the guy who did it in the anime, Ted Lewis, he did pretty well. That's why my vote is Ted Lewis. Zero should be played by Benedict Cumberbatch. He has the right voice for it, and he has the right acting talent for it. There wouldn't really be any other characters until we got a sequel, so... Finally, the last movie on the list is the Super Smash Bros. Movie. This would be the equivalent of the first Avengers movie, so it would have to be really good. There is a possibility that Pokemon could just appear. That would serve the story well and keep it true to the game. Naturally, the first movie in this series would have to follow the story of the characters meeting each other and defeating Master Hand and Crazy Hand for the first time. The dream is for the first film to have all of the main characters and villains of the movies, but that might become a little bit too bloated with characters. If that's the case, we can just cut it down to the original 8 with a couple of extras here and there. That's about it. I hope you enjoyed me rambling about my dream of a Nintendo Cinematic Universe. I really think that this could happen if enough of us ask for it. Let's hope. That's about it for this fancast and fan writing of the Nintendo Cinematic Universe. If you'd like to see some more characters or talk about what happens after the first Super Smash Bros. Movie, then please like the video and subscribe. That's about it. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you later.